Hi, everybody. This is a special video in gratitude for my recovering from knee surgery. And also during this time, I've taken the opportunity to write a wonderful little adventure story for my nephew David for his birthday coming up next week. It's also a day of gratitude for International Children's Day. And I stand with the voices of peace, the Jewish voices of peace, to call for a ceasefire now in the terrible conflict going on between Israel, Palestine, and Hamas. And I'm taking this opportunity to say, stop the killing now. So, on a lighter note, I'd like to share this wonderful story with you guys and let me know what you think. I'm going to share right here. And we have to figure out how to share the screen going back. Let's go back right here. Great. Davy, a rocket racing Triceratops for my dear nephew, David. Davy is a rocket racing Triceratops with two horns and a rocket bad multicolored neck shield that could whoosh up to cover his horns or suck down to protect his chest. Davy comes from Poikalopicus, the land of diagonal atmospheres, one of air, the other underwater. Davy and his tribe have lungs for the air parts of the planet and gills for the underwater parts. On his planet, atmosphere changes instantly, and one has to be ready to adapt quickly or fill with CO2 and die. Davy always liked taking off, blasting into outer space. He used a special fuel combo of two chemicals plus exemplary dino poop for supercharge. Davy was always careful enough to wear his helmet so the stars would not graze his head. He also wore headphones so he could listen to tunes and code patterns as he flew around. On his dinosaur belt, Davy wore the golden longsword given to him by his dinosaur grandfather, who was martial arts instructor for the village. Davy could fly straight up, zip around with a 360 whirly, change directions, pass through a shooting star, and zip down diagonally to enter any of the atmospheres easily. Davy has a little sister, Gwynguita, who likes to play with balloon fish. You see her here. And she likes to play with balloon fish under the water. Gwyn has long hair that floats around encircling the fish, who use it as an exercise to avoid fish nets. One day, a group of long-necked Bravosaurian sauropods glided into Poikalopicus, bobbing their heads in rapid Morse code isolations. They swooped down and cradled Gwynguita in a long neck and left before anyone could say Poikalopicus. Davy was devastated. He loved his little sister. Their parents, the shamans of the village, were so sad and helpless, they made an amulet for Davy to wear around his neck shield that could shrink him to pocket size or grow him to a 101 floor skyscraper. They entreated Davy to go north to Sauropod and retrieve his little sister before they changed her into another Bravosaurian sauropod. Now, there are big differences between Triceratops, who could stomp around with horns and strong teeth and jaws. They could crush bones if they wanted to, very off putting strutters. It was said, however, that Triceratops actually preferred being herbivores. Sauropods, on the other hand, developed into very long neck, long tail, little head, best plant eating creatures around. They didn't look menacing except for their size. Poikalopicus inhabitants did not know if the sauropods would harm Gwynguita. They just knew they weren't the same as Triceratops, so they feared the worst. Davy called upon his good friend the bishop, prominent citizen of Chess Triceratops. Davy wanted Bishop, whose grandfather was an elephant, to figure out a strategy for rescuing Gwynguita before she became engulfed by the sauropods. Bishop moved only in diagonal so he could instruct Davy on easiest directions to the Bravosaurian planet. Bishop thought long and hard and instructed Davy to use the amulet to make him pocket size so he could zoom through space without being noticed until reaching the sauropod planet, then do a reconnaissance on the situation before becoming as tall as the neck people. Davy took off, cruising at top speed until he could see the planet with the long necks. They were bobbing up and down so fast. And There were so many of them that Davy got dizzy, up and down, bobbing. He was able to spot Glinguida because she was so different in shape. She looked frightened, yet unharmed. Those around her were stretching up, squinching down, stretching up again. They didn't understand how Glinguida could exist without a long neck to browse those treetops. In fact, she looked as strange to them as they did to her. Maybe it was curiosity that signaled them to retrieve her from Poikolopagus. No one knew. Davy pressed the amulet and he instantly became huge, using his neck shield to strengthen his lungs for atmosphere. He planned to swoop in, lift Glinguida up, and take refuge in deep water, using their gills until they could fly home. It was such chaos. Neck bobbing, swooping, crying, humming, singing, all at once and in all directions. Finally, Davy was able to locate and spirit Glinguida away from the sauropod tribe, unharmed. He didn't even have to use his sword. Phew! They eventually flew back to Poikolopagus, where they all sat around and pondered what had just occurred. The end of chapter 1. So I hope you enjoyed this little adventure, and I implore any of you, or each of you, to make up chapter 2 and see where we go from here. So until we meet again, thanks so much for listening.